welcome everybody to this second episode and first episode of 2024 here across the Yard of Bricks. I'm Nathan. I got David and Vince here with me. How you guys doing?
You started, Vince.
Pretty good. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm good too. It's Friday night, man. It's maybe a week from Daytona, so it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I really wish we had racing this weekend, like we had in years past.
Yeah, I mean, me too, but obviously Fox isn't gonna, as much as they don't really invest in their product anyway. They're definitely not going to have it the same weekend. Although I think, depending on how you did it, would be a nice little teaser into the Super Bowl. But I digress here. So
yeah,
but yeah, speaking of starting up here, I mean, we had the weather plagued clash last weekend.
in California.
Yeah. Of course, California gets apocalyptic rain. If the weather follows NASCAR anywhere, apparently.
Go ahead, Vince.
It's a tradition. I mean, the past year it was terrible with the rainouts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went to the last race on the 2 mile at Auto Club last year, and of course, it snowed on the Saturday of the Xfinity race, and it was colder there than it was here in Indianapolis. So, just things just been crazy, like Vince has said, through the past year. But they were able to get through it, also able to have a very fantastic Mexico City race. What are some thoughts you guys had about the product on track, and just how some of the updated short track package looked like? David, what'd you think?
I really liked the short track package. Actually, I thought the race was pretty solid, given the way the clash races have looked in the past. We had guys take off, get to the back of the pack, get caught. It felt like an old style Martinsville race in that sense, where if you battled hard at the restart, but then it singled out, it was hard to pass, but you could pass. It was about drive off the corner. I do wonder if that's a product of the track being so short. You have to slow down so much in those corners. The 670 horsepower doesn't restrict you from throttling up and beating somebody off the corner. You can run that kind of outside lane if you can get back to the gas a little bit quicker. So I thought we saw some really good racing. We had a few cautions, a few spins. We had some rivalry. I enjoyed the clash for what it was. I think it's worth pointing out that I thought NASCAR did a great job moving the race the day up. That's hard to do. They lost a lot of rating. They lost almost all their ticket sales, right? I mean, they're going to have to give back all their ticket sales. So, but they got a race in. They gave us a preview. We missed the heats. It ended up being knockout qualifying, which I thought was far more interesting than the heats were, where you kind of they string out because there's only 6 cars on the track, and then that was it. But at least they were last year. The first year they were crazy. So I thought it was a good race.
We just didn't have Ty Dillon this time around. So of course, the heats probably wouldn't have been as crazy as they were the past 2 years. Vince, what'd you think?
Yeah, I agree with David. I think the short track package is a lot more improved, but I wish they could figure out a way to get rid of the shifting at the short tracks. I think that's the biggest issue with the Cup car right now is you miss a corner, you grab a gear and drive it as hard as you can off, and there's no punishment for missing corners anymore.
Right.
Other than that,
we saw it with Hamlin. He was sliding his right front tire every corner.
Yeah, downshift and drive it off and shift down the straightaway.
Go ahead. Sorry, Vince.
I think that's the biggest issue right now. I mean, you see it at Martinsville, unless you're Ross Chastain, where you're grabbing a gear before you hit the corner. But yeah, I don't know. If there was some way to either limit the revs or something to keep it, say, fourth gear setup, I think you'd see a lot more jostling for position and more mistakes being made.
I'm not an engineer or anything, but I feel like I see a lot of people talk about continue to work on like the tires, and maybe adjusting the braking a little bit, because I think a lot of it, not necessarily. I mean, the shifting is still an issue because when I went to the 2022 Martinsville Spring Race, I mean, that was legitimately probably the worst race I've ever been to, and that's even saying something with me attending the tire fiasco race at Indy. Um, I think part of it, goes back to adjusting brakes and tires. I think that was kind of a huge issue. But again, I'm not an engineer. I don't work on these cars. I can't really, I can't really make a determination. But I thought it was pretty good for the most part. Surprisingly clean in the first half. I mean, they went 70 laps caution free. Surprisingly, I mean, I think that first 70 laps was 18 minutes or something, which was crazy. Crazy to have. But this might be the last clash that we see in LA. I mean,
Yeah.
I think after the weather and just everything else, I mean, I don't know that they're going to come back to the Coliseum preseason. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to look at the toll it takes on the teams too. You're looking at a quick turnaround right back to Daytona next weekend when it probably takes them a day and a half, 2 days to drive out there from North Carolina. And for what? To not make the show?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to limit costs and you want to run something like that, go run them at the Charlotte Legends Oval in the infield.
I guess my thought is, do we need a short track heat style exhibition race before the season and in the All-Star break? That's maybe my question at this point. And the All-Star race last year was a great, job of bringing North Wilkesboro back. I think we're all excited to see what that does this year. I'd much rather just have North Wilkesboro be a points race and take that week off in May and just have our all-star $1 million race be the clash, which we move around to these different stadiums. I think you can generate a lot of preseason buzz if you're giving out $1 million before the season starts. You can generate a lot of rivalry. You can get crazy with the heats and the locations, right? They're talking about Mexico City. They're talking about finding other short tracks. Like, I still think they should go stay in Florida. There's a bunch of good short tracks in Florida, right? And you can keep the teams in Daytona and run that on a short track in Florida somewhere. But as it stands, I think the Coliseum was a great choice by NASCAR a few years ago, and to prove that concept of being able to run in a football stadium, it opens up a lot of markets, it opens up a lot of locations, and I think they can use that to their advantage. They just have to go out and find those locations that are actually going to be able to fit cars in that small of an area.
And I still selfishly would still want a race in the LA market. I just, with everything kind of on hold right now, I don't really know where you could do it personally. I mean, you got Irwindale, but I don't know if you've ever looked at it on Google Maps. It's kind of an industrial area, and they're always plagued for years about getting shut down. I just don't really know where you could have one, but personally, for me, I think I actually would say just cut the clash and maybe add back some testing at Daytona, like the week of or the week before. I mean, with the TV contracts and everything coming back, I think, that's going to still be a thing moving forward. But I would rather just take that, move North Wilkesboro to a point race, and then take the clash and maybe run it on a dirt track somewhere. Personally, I mean, I think these cars are great on, as they showed at Bristol on dirt. I mean, you're going to have to run it at some place with some banking and not, your little podunk short track somewhere. But, that's just my thoughts on the whole thing there.
Yeah, I mean, to what David said about down in Florida at a short track, you look at, so starting tomorrow, the entire week leading up to the Daytona qualifying and practice and everything next week, they have 7 straight nights of racing at New Smyrna Speedway, New Smyrna Beach, 20 minutes from Daytona.
Yep.
You look at something where the guys could go down there, run that short track, put it up with the same night as the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour Race, which is Saturday night. And it's one big NASCAR thing. You got the officials and everybody already down there. That'd be a perfect. I mean, they sell that place out every night of the week down there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in the industry have touched on that, and that's not a bad idea. I really also like Justin Mark's idea, partially also because he mentioned some really good Indiana short tracks, and I be a little selfish here, but like that would take, that idea I think would take. That's probably a better all-star idea than a Clash idea. Just you kind of limiting where you're going to take it, with the weather and stuff. Although like today it was up to 67 degrees here, so you never know.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'll be interested to see what they do with the Clash moving forward. But I think even with the crappy weather, I think it was still a success, and NASCAR made some really good choices with moving it up.
Yeah, definitely talking to some of the people that I know in the industry, they said that might have been the smartest decision NASCAR's ever made.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we also got to see some new faces and some new places. There's some people I'm pretty excited to see this year. A couple that I touch on. Not so much as exciting on this one as intrigued to see how he'll do, but also the entire organization after the crap fest that they've had of late. I'm real intrigued to see how Josh Berry's going to do in the 4 this year. I'm a big Briscoe fan, so this is kind of pertinent to me to see, are they going to come back with some success without the legend retiring, in Kevin Harvick. I think Barry's got a ton of talent, but are the cars going to be there? What do you think, guys?
I mean, that was one thing I had marked down was Josh Berry and Gregson over at Haas. Can Haas take that next step to get back to what they were? Because right now it's almost as if they're a B-tier team, especially with Ford.
I'd almost say C tier, honestly. Yeah. After, it ended up being the same thing for Harvick that happened, in his tenure at RCR. I mean, he basically dragged those cars to successful finishes. So it's whether or not are they going to be able to get back to, having success of like 2018 where they put all 4 cars in the round of 8. I mean, I just don't really know personally. And, as a fan of Briscoe, it just be interesting to see how they, pan moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not big on Stuart Haas's chances. I think Kevin Harvick was dragging that organization up, and with him gone, they kind of only have one place to do, and that's fall. I don't know if Barry or Gregson are either guys that I trust to pull off the types of runs that Kevin Harvick is able to do. And like Nate said, we've seen Harvick drag organizations up. If anything, my opinion of Kevin Harvick over this last year or two has dramatically gone up. Like, this dude is so good that he's taking junk boxes and driving him to top 10 finishes every week. If Rodney Childers works magic with Josh Berry, I won't be surprised, but I am not expecting it. I think this whole org is going to struggle badly this season to the point of, we might see some dramatic changes, whether they move manufacturers, sell a charter. Like, there's a lot of possibilities if this team struggles, because how invested is Gene Haas in this? Tony Stewart's doing full-time drag racing this year. I'm not optimistic for Stuart Haas, and I know that might be unpopular in the chat, but I'm just not.
And I mean, also, think about all the sponsorship that they lost too. I mean, the big one is Bush. A bunch of Harvick sponsors. I mean, Hunt Brothers went over to Penske, but even some little small ones have gone to, like
Smithfield's going too, right?
Vacation Planner. What was that?
Smithfield left
Sorry.
with Almirola.
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of was expected, I guess. Which, I mean, he seemed to be a great face for the company, but that sponsorship pairing always kind of puzzled me. Aside, I mean, they wanted a family face, but they spent a lot of money for 2 wins.
Eric liked him some bacon.
And another one I was really curious about is I'm curious to see how these Spire cars do this year. I mean, they've been in for a while here, and they're really starting to invest a ton of money. As Lee asked here, how much are charters selling for these days? They just spent $40 million for the Live Fast charter. That charter, in terms of the money that's going to pay out, is not going to be a ton comparatively, just because it's been at the bottom of the barrel for the past few years. But, they spent $40 million on that. They spent $27 million on, a truck team. Yep. I mean, is this going to be a serious team moving forward?
I'm way more optimistic about Spire than I am about Stuart Haas, and that's weird. It feels weird to have that optimism, but I think Hocevar is extremely talented, if a little brainless at times, and I hopefully he carries that over. I want to see him make some mistakes, turn some people around, get some people angry, and that's what people talk about. That's what makes this a really interesting sport, is having guys got to learn lessons. They got to make mistakes. They've got to do things the wrong way. But if they do those things at the cost of, let's go win a race, let's go win a championship, in my mind, then that makes the better personalities, right? And the hated drivers, that's why you come back, is to see the hated drivers not succeed, right? You want to see those hated drivers fail. Carson Hocevar has that like ability to captivate, right? It's something that we see with Ross Chastain. He's got the ability to be very polarizing, where you either like him or you don't. And I don't want him to lose that. I want him to be smarter, but I want him to also like not lose that willingness to just hook Ty Gibbs into the wall at Martinsville for no reason at all, because he got ran into, for last place, right?
To be fair, Gibbs kind of was a dick during that race, and
I have no issues with hooking Ty Gibbs into the wall. I just want Carson Hocevar to continue to do those types of things, and I really like Zane Smith. I think Zane Smith's a really talented driver. I hope he gets some personality here, and I think this is the place for him to do it. Right, under Corey LaJoie's leadership, and then with a rookie teammate like Carson Hocevar, I think that can really balance into a trifecta of guys who can work together well, and in a car that you need teammates to help you with at a lot of these different tracks. This group's going to be pretty strong and pretty fast. I like where they are, and I think they could impress me.
Yeah, for me, my guy's John Hunter. I want to see his second go around here in Cup. New team, obviously legacy, haven't been that great. Yep. See if he can maybe use some of the lessons he's learned in the past. Now that he's refreshed himself, coming up through the ranks in the trucks there, and Xfinity, new spotter, brand new spotter this year for him, rookie spotter. So might see him causing some big ones at Daytona.
I as much crap as Hocevar gets, I think John Hunter is much more of a dumbass on the track. I don't hate it. Like, I mean, yeah. I think I would feel differently if he's running into, guys I root for. But again, like you said, David, I mean, this will lead to some, exciting things. You got some rivalry. Man, I can't talk today. But you got people going at it, and that's storylines that you want in a healthy manner. I don't want like Carl Edwards about to kill Brad Keselowski. But stuff like carrying over stuff Brad K and Denny Hamlin had. Brad K losing his fucking mind in Charlotte in 2014. Like, that was a little healthier. But yeah, no, I agree there.
You know, my worry with John Hunter is how much of his recent success is those Gibbs Xfinity cars. That's my biggest question. Those cars are the fastest cars in the garage in the Xfinity series, week in and week out. How much of that success is off of there? That said, he's learned to complete races, and I think that's the biggest difference from racing as a front row driver with very little experience other than the truck series, where the races are much shorter. He was completing full Xfinity races, winning those races. And if he can put together good races where he just improves the car and he moves up throughout the race, I think they're going to have a good season. So I'm a big fan of the Legacy Motorsports Club as a growing organization this season. Think they'll be going up, but I don't think they'll have like the most success early on unless we see like Eric Jones and John Hunter really, staying calm, not overdriving the car, trying to get too much out of it, in which case I think they will improve as the season goes along. And then by the end of the year and maybe to the start of next year, they'll be, a contending organization.
And another thing with Legacy, they switched manufacturers this
They did.
offseason.
Yeah,
They
that's
went
why
to
I'm thinking
Toyota.
that.
So who
I like
knows?
the new Toyota noses, by the way. They look really good.
Mm-hmm.
That first rendering looked awful, and then every scheme I've seen, I've been like, that looks really good.
And I think all three Cup cars look good now. I mean, I know some people have talked about, or I've seen some comments on social media, Reddit and the like. They kind of don't like the gray under the headlights on the Ford noses, but I don't think it necessarily is a huge issue. But yeah, I mean, number placement aside, I mean, I think these are some of the best looking Cup cars we've ever had personally.
One driver that I want to note that's changing organizations kind of this season that isn't a Cup driver but is relevant to the Cup series is Shane Van Gisbergen, who is going to be going full time in Xfinity for Kaulig this season, and that is really exciting. I think that guy can win at least one of the road course races in Xfinity, and he'll have to go against AJ Allmendinger, but they'll be teammates, so they'll be working together. I can't wait to see what he can do on an oval. I think Van Gisbergen captured a lot of hearts winning Chicago last year. That's one of the biggest reasons I'm more excited for the Xfinity series this year is that you're getting a full season run from Shane Van Gisbergen. You're getting a full season run from ARCA champ Jesse Love. And you got a lot of young talent, crossing over with the loss of John Hunter Nemechek, right? Who won like 9 races last year or something. So there's a lot of open races, I think, to go out and take here in the Xfinity series. And if Shane Van Gisbergen can figure out ovals, man, that could be a really fun watch. And at worst case, you're going to see guys like Sheldon Creed and Austin Hill still battling with each other. I'm just really excited for the Xfinity series this year.
Well, it's not really. He's not really. I mean, he is going to another organization, but he's not really going to an organization because, I mean, it's a loan, but it seems that Kaulig and Trackhouse are pretty much working together for the most part. But yeah, I mean, he had a lot of fun last year at IRP. He finished 19th or something like that, but it was all about logging laps. But yeah, I mean, him and I feel like you've mentioned, him versus AJ are going to be some really legendary battles, and I would love for them at Portland to have some rain and see how that goes, because I feel like them two at Portland, that would be a huge blast.
For sure.
And like you said, captured a lot of attention in hearts at Chicago.
Right.
But yeah, I also agree with that. This leads me into couple races here that I think are going to be most exciting for me personally, not even necessarily just overall. I would have to go with 5 that I could pick off the top of my head, and I'm not necessarily going to elaborate on them, but going back to Chicago, going back to the oval at Indy, and how these cars are going to be there. The truck race at IRP that they should have never left, in 2011. It's always been a blast since it's been back the past 2 years. And with it not being a playoff race now for the trucks, Ross Chastain was announced to be running it. I feel like we could get a couple more, cup drivers running it, like Briscoe for one, just, being a local boy there. I would also go with, I'm excited to see continuing how these cars continue to work on Talladega, Daytona by an extension. And I think also another one that I'm real excited for is all the road course races in Xfinity, because it all goes back to AJ versus, Van Hamburger. And
All right, Jeff Burton. I don't see. It's one of those where I think I'm really excited to go back to Bristol in the spring, as long as we can get it without rain. It seems like we either get rain or snow every single time you do that. Other than when we've been to the dirt, which it's been perfectly fine every single time. I'm excited to get back into Bristol, and hopefully the Bristol spring race is more of a it shows the improvement of the short track package. We mentioned it during the talk about the Clash. I think that's the first race on the short track package this season. I could be wrong about that. I don't have the schedule pulled up in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, well, they didn't include Phoenix in it, right?
It did, yeah. So it'll probably be Phoenix first, and then
Phoenix. It's definitely Phoenix then, but then Bristol should be the next one after that.
Yeah, it's literally back-to-back races there with the short track package. And I'm glad, Vince. I'm glad you responded there, because the one guy I did want to mention too. I mentioned the ARCA champion. His battle, Jesse Love's battle for the ARCA championship, was with William Sololich. He's also getting run in the Gibbs 19 car this year in Xfinity Series. So, that's another guy who's going to be really fun, I think, to watch this season, because you've got a lot of these really young guys with factory backing. Starting to move up, and we're getting to that point where we've had kind of a dearth of young talent, right? We've been at that point where now it's built up, and I think you're going to have a lot of these really, really good, like, guys who've been winning races in the bottom series. They're going to come up, and they're not going to have competitive cars, and they're going to have to learn how to, get there, and that can create that excitement that I've, kind of been preaching on here today. Is I want to see guys run into each other. We can't be friends here. This is racing.
Minnesota boy, William Swalich.
Yep. Other race I'm kind of interested to see is that first Atlanta race in February. NASCAR did this out of, they know that the Daytona 500 is their big draw, right? It's the 10 million viewer draw. They want people to come back and watch the same type of racing, which, I don't agree with, because, I only want a few of these platey type track races a year, but, I do like when they come around. But taking you from Daytona to Atlanta, which is kind of a transition where these guys at Atlanta, they're going to get spread out. That Atlanta surface is going to wear quickly, and it's going to start getting to a point of being like an old Daytona, where those cars are not going to handle well. Those banks are not going to hold them, and they're going to slide up the track, and it's going to be a more of a single file strategy race where, if you could have like a Dale Jr. win 3 or 4 in a row at that type of racetrack. I don't know that it's going to be this season, but I think in the coming seasons we're going to see that Atlanta track, you're going to have to start lifting, and it'll be packy, but it'll be packy like those old 2000s Daytona races, when they used to spread out, run single file, slide up the track, have to make passes with the throttle. it could be a really nice transition race, and then maybe they can see some people come back and then stick around if they see a similar type of racing from the 500 through Atlanta.
And it may end up getting to the point where the surface wears enough where they kind of change the package, and you kind of can get back to a steeper, older Atlanta. But we'll see on that there. Vince, you got any races circled on your calendar here that you're real intrigued or very excited for?
Yeah, I got a couple. The Bristol night race with this new short track package. I'm excited to see how that car transitions in from day to night, and if they can get the old Bristol racing back. The All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. North Wilkesboro paved the whole track this year, so that is going to be the fastest that track's ever been. Is this year with a fresh layer of asphalt down there. That's another track where anything goes and anything can happen, although it is the All-Star race. And then the final one I got is the Southern 500. Yep. It's the cutoff race for the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's a track where we see long green flag runs. We see people blowing tires, and strategy always plays a part. Can somebody play the strategy well enough to sneak their way into the playoffs this year? So that's probably the one I'm most excited for.
Always excited for Darlington. But yeah, I mean, Southern 500 at the cutoff race. I like Daytona in the cutoff race. Thought it was a really good play to kick Daytona back a couple weeks and get it out of July. Was initially I resisted that because I wanted the July 4th race to be the Daytona race. I think they've done a good job. And I like Daytona in that cutoff spot, and I like Darlington in the playoffs because it's such a difficult track. This is interesting. This is an interesting change. Daytona's the week before, so you've still got that Hail Mary shot if you're not confident. But yeah, I mean, Darlington's a race where Eric Jones won the Southern 500 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's totally feasible to see something like that again.
And I mean, the only reason it's like it this year is just, the Olympics and how NBC is going to, have their broadcasts and stuff. And that, that's totally fine. This isn't choice moving forward. And, I just want to say, I'm all about tradition and stuff too, but I never was too upset about Daytona not being on the 4th of July. If they're going to continue with a playoff style sort of championship, I mean, for all intents and purposes, having a super speedway as the cutoff race to get into the playoffs from the regular season makes the most sense out of everything. And I've also seen, I don't think that they will ever go back to Daytona on 4th of July because I've seen a lot of things people talk about, the businesses and hotels and stuff like having another summer weekend that's going to be filled up like that. Because 4th of July, I mean, that's already a tractor in itself. But now you got another big weekend in the summer to deal with. So if it goes back to regular season points where it's a full season championship, maybe consider moving it back. But at the same time, I don't think I'd be too bothered by it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there.
Yep.
Now, to get into a little bit before we get into some predictions here, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your iRacing adventures coming up here?
Absolutely. So, I run a team in OSCA, which is Online Stock Car Association, and we've run 8 seasons now. This might be our 9th season. I'll have to double check with our league leader, but Vince has been on my team before, multiple times, and this year we had some people leave and open up some spots, and Vince, took my offer to jump on and take basically Damien's car from last year. He's my co-host over at Batflip Podcast.
We all hate Damien right now.
We do, yeah, for sure. So,
yes.
But Nate sponsored Damien's car, and so Nate has been an ardent supporter of the team that I've run. He pays for our charters, and and he's paid for race sponsorships, and he's a very big supporter of the league. And so Vince is now running Nate's car. Nate uses his brewing company to sponsor Vince's car, and there it is. Yeah, Traders Brewing Company.
Traders Brewing.
So, we are running it's an 18 race schedule, but we run 2 races a night. So we get in a full 36 races over the course of these seasons. Vince and I have competed for wins a bunch of times in the past, and I'm really excited for this season. I think we've got a season 8 of Oscar. Thanks, Vic. Season 8, which is really cool. This year, if Adam continues to miss races, which is my co-owner of the team, I take over the most starts in Oscar's series, which is pretty cool. So we've been there since day one. Hopefully we get some more wins this year, though. It's been a minute since I've won a race. I'm getting a little antsy.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to racing for a championship. And thanks to Nate, I mean, without him, don't have a sponsor for this year.
Right.
Traders Brewing, Bite Size Sports. You guys are great.
The logo's right here. Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Right here. It's right around.
Right around the corner.
Yep.
Or we just pop up.
Yeah, there you go.
Throw in a couple previous examples.
That's the last car that won. And there's one, me in the wall. So it's perfect. That's where I always am. There's last year's.
My car is coming. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
David's favorite on some road courses right here.
And that was Monza. That was when we ran the Monza Oval, and I was leading the race, and we weren't sure if we were going to make it on gas, so I pit, and then the very next caution is somebody wrecking right in front of me and getting me put in the wall. The next caution, and I was like,
typical David fashion.
Every time, man, every single time.
At least you didn't pull a Kyle Larson, right?
Yeah. We hit the pit cones. Yeah, we gotta. We'll see how it is. I'm really excited for this Oscar
or
schedule.
Say something that you shouldn't.
Because
that's where Nate was going with that.
Someone said it in the someone got kicked out of Oscar last year for using wordy dirds.
Yeah.
So it's we aren't concerned about that, but
nope. Definitely concerned about winning a championship, though.
Yep, absolutely.
What's the schedule?
I'm trying to pull it up quickly. It's not loading. Love that. There it is. So we're starting at Daytona, February 22nd, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. Then we got Homestead, my absolute favorite track in the world that I definitely own on the sim, Suzuka. We've got Darlington and Dover. You'll see us up there at Darlington and Dover. We've run those well in the past. Knoxville, the dirt track, that should be fun. There's some dirt aces in the league. I don't anticipate to be close to the front in that one, but we're back to Pocono, and every Oscar Pocono race that I can recall was horrible. So I'm certain that this one will be great, and we'll have no issues whatsoever.
I am definitely excited for Pocono, given that it's my home track.
Yeah.
Grew up about 15 minutes from Pocono.
Nice. Can you see anything when you go to Pocono live?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I've always thought there's no chance you can see the tunnel turn if you sit on the front straightaway.
If you sit, halfway up the bleachers or so to the top, you can see all the way through the tunnel turn. The only time you lose them is in the short shoot for a split second. That's all.
I remember when I went in 2022, we were in the 300 level under the shaded thing, but all the way down at pit road entrance. And it was like, good luck trying to see turn one pretty well. So
yeah.
Right. After Pocono comes Las Vegas. It's a good one for me, at least. Long Beach comes after Las Vegas. That's another one of my absolute favorite tracks. Can't wait for that one.
Are you going to end up in the fountain?
I will get a picture of myself in the fountain in practice, 100%. We've got Auto Club after that. Rest in peace. Nashville, I think that's Super Speedway. The throwback race is Stafford, which is a short track up there in New Jersey, Vince?
Connecticut.
Stafford is Connecticut, buddy.
Yep. Okay. Well, one of them small, tiny northeastern
amazing
states.
Amazing track.
It's going to be a fun race.
Yes.
And then Talladega is the cutoff for the chase. We run a standard, 2004 to 2010 style chase where, you get 5 races, but really it's 10 races because there's 2 halves in each race, and we'll run Charlotte Rockingham. That's the one I'm most excited about. Summit Point, I don't even know where that is.
No clue.
Yeah,
Virginia, I believe.
That kicks me out of the championship this year. But and then Iowa and Old Atlanta pre the repave and the super speedwayness of it. So
Summit Point is in West Virginia.
Okay, so I had
neat.
the Virginia part right.
It is in the well, it basically might as well be in like Maryland because it's pretty much it's like real close to Maryland and real close to Virginia.
Yeah.
So like right off of 81.
It's right off 81. Yeah, right by Hagerstown, Maryland.
Neat. I don't know. I y'all can tell I'm just not a road course guy. I've just, the 2 road courses I know Vic never goes to because everyone goes to Sonoma and Watkins Glen, and I am not very good at those. and any but those, right? I've had a good finish at Watkins Glen, but that's it. So we're kicking a little horsepower out of the car. We've been running the old Cup cars the last 2 seasons. So we ran the 2020 car, which had 550 horsepower at the big tracks, 750 at the small tracks and the road courses, which that was miserable. And then last year we ran the old 2016 cars, which was really fun. We had a really good season, I thought. But yeah, we had like 850 horsepower in those. Kicking it back to the Xfinity car this year, it's very reminiscent of, I think it was seasons 5 and 6 of OSCA, if I'm not wrong. It might be 4 and 5. And we ran Xfinity cars for those, and that's back when Vince was on my team, and so we're kind of
fast. Yep.
We're gonna bring it back. So I'm really excited. We got 2 really good teammates this year. We teamed up with a guy named James Watson, and his two drivers were Ray Bracey and Zach Evans, and a couple of really fun guys. And so we're really excited to get that whole team together. We're running 6, 7, 8, and 9. So look for us on the 3-Wide TV broadcasts this year. We got great paint schemes, right? I mean, Ray paints Zach's cars, and every year they do like a throwback contest where they tweet out, who's the best scheme, and I think Zach's won it every year. So it's pretty fun, and Ray always does a good job.
What are you going with, Vince? I can't remember, to be honest.
We're going with the Bristol car that Junior ran this past year, where he caught on fire, the Hellman's car, the Xfinity car. But I'm going to get slandered because it's on a Ford. But yeah.
So it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. We decided to do Ford way back. I figured we've been Chevy for a bunch of years in a row. And Zach and Ray have been running Fords for a few years. I figured they wanted to run Fords. I don't actually think they care. But I was like, let's just change because I like the Mustang in the Xfinity car. There is one Chevy driver this season.
Yes.
Everybody changed to Ford or Toyota, which is super funny. And at this point, I would have loved to switch back, but we've already made the paints. It is what it is. So, it's
definitely exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be hilarious. But hey, Chevy's done a lot of winning in OSCA. I think it's time to bring us back to the Ford, and that's, again, we ran Fords when Vince was already on my team, so it really is very much a throwback.
Well, I'm excited. I'll also be branching out a little bit and getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. So we'll see how some support broadcasting goes here in a couple weeks in the year. So
I'm hyped for that, man. I'm really excited that you're going to get to do that.
Yep.
OSCA puts on really good broadcasts, and it's a lot of fun. It's not too serious. You can just have fun with it, but man, it's Goody's fun to hang out with, and Carlos is a great producer. So
now I got to ask you guys, since we're getting to the end here, give me some Final Four predictions in Cup, Xfinity, and Truck if you're comfortable, and give me your picks for champions this year.
Mm-hmm. You want to start, Vince? You have a spreadsheet. I gotta look. I gotta remember.
So I only have the Xfinity champ and Truck champ written down, but
that's totally fine.
For the Final Four and Cup, I have Larson and Byron from Hendrick, Chastain and Logano.
Okay.
I think
even year Logano.
Yeah, I think we see Logano raise that that program up some more. I mean, I know last year wasn't really his year with Blaney winning it, but I think Blaney winning it might have been a flash in the pan, and that'll probably be the only one he gets. Hot take. I have Byron winning the championship this year. Riding hot.
Mm-hmm.
The whole end of the year last. I mean, the whole year he was flying. But yeah, I think this is the year that somebody from Hendrick takes it back from Penske after 2 straight years, and I think Byron's going to be that guy.
Okay, so Vince, we're not going to have the same champion. Now, I'm going to pick Hamlin in the Final Four. He wasn't in it last year, but just for whatever reason, right, I got to have Hamlin in. I think Christopher Bell is going to be in the Final Four again. He's been in it 2 years in a row. I'm going to pick, oh man, I want to go Blaney Chastain. I don't know if I should because I'm losing out. I'm leaving out Hendrick, and that's not going to happen. I'll go Chase Elliott 3.
Oh.
Right, so the Hendrick driver that Vince didn't pick, I'll go Chase Elliott. And then my 4th guy will be Chris Buescher for a weird one. And, you know, the question is, who's better, right? Who's the better car to start the year, but who's the better car going to finish the year? So I think Toyota is going to be really fast at the start. So I think Hamlin, Bell, Truex, maybe Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, you know, get up there. You know, they're really fast. Ty Gibbs, they're really fast at the beginning of the year. The Gibbs cars win some races, get a lot of guys in the playoffs. By the end of the year, I think it's the Fords that are a little bit quicker, and I think Chase Elliott wins like Watkins Glen, right? And then you know, and kind of gets his way through the points. But I think at the end of the day, Christopher Bell is going to kick down the door and finally win a championship for the 20 car. That's going to be my pick. Yeah, I'm not going to pick Denny Hamlin. You know, and neither of us did. It's just he keeps searching for it, you know. And I think the big question is, can Denny Hamlin win a championship? He's going to be one of the all-time greatest drivers, and he's passed like Mark Martin for guys who like haven't won a championship in terms of performance at this point.
So for me, you know, and I've got a whole Final Four for Xfinity and trucks too.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But for Cup here, I'm going with DH, Denny Hamlin. I'm going to throw Tyler Reddick. I think the Toyotas are going to be strong throughout the year. I would also throw in Chase Elliott's going to have a nice rebound year. And maybe slightly a shocker, but I don't think any Fords even make the round of 12 or the round of 8, excuse me, personally. So, you know, I think we're going to have a nice year, and I think Kyle Busch is going to make the Final Four. You know, and a little bit of a shocker. I think they're going to fix their short track package at RCR a little bit, and you know, Kyle Busch is going to be drinking his bourbon while, you know, doing some nicotine on his way to a Final Four appearance. But I think we're going to go with Denny Hamlin's finally going to get his first title, personally.
There you go. It's 3 different champions and pretty different Final Fours too. It goes to show you how competitive it's going to be this year in Cup, which is a good thing, right? Having that many drivers who can win. How many guys did we mention, right? Who definitely can be in competition for this, and that's without talking about like Keselowski, who was the most consistent driver last season. We didn't talk about Bowman at all, who was leading the points until he got hurt last year.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of really good, talented drivers in Cup right now. And, you know, I don't think any of us picked Martin Truex Jr. He was the regular season champion last year. And obviously his playoff run has everybody down and sour on him. But if Truex is racing, he's going to be a competitor for wins.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's just how it is. He's very fast. He's running Gibbs cars still. And I think there's a very reasonable shot Ty Gibbs is right there on the cusp of the Final Four here. You know, don't like the kid, but he's gonna be in there.
Yeah, Ty strung together a bunch of good races there at the end of the year, and they got their stuff going. They paired him up with one of the more senior and probably one of the best spotters in the business, who's worked with Kyle the past umpteen years since he won the championship, with Tony Hirschman, and having that veteran up on the stand might actually have been helping him mature more.
We saw him leading the Clash, right? He was real close.
Yeah.
I don't think we even talked. Hamlin won the Clash.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about who won it. We just talked about it was good racing. But all right, Vince, who's your Xfinity Final Four?
I don't. So I can give you 3. Give me Allmendinger, Sheldon Creed moving over to Gibbs, and Sam Mayer, I think, are three guys that you're going to see in that Final Four. Sam Mayer really took the next step last year. He's fast. Junior Motorsports is fast. We all know that. Seems like he's going to be the lead guy over there this year. But I have AJ Allmendinger winning the championship. That
Gotcha.
You can't. I could see him winning half the road course races this year alone, and couple that with Colleague's speed. I mean, he's well enough of a driver to be able to put something together here.
I'm gonna go Dinger. Dinger definitely is in it. He just is. I'm almost gonna have a very chalky Final Four. It feels like, because I'm going Dinger, Custer, Allgaier. I don't see any reason to bet against those guys. And last year it was Sam Mayer that made it into the Final Four over some of the favorites like Austin Hill. This year I think Austin Hill writes it. And overperforms Sheldon Creed. I think that's the battle, which is great. I think those guys are going to battle all season long. And, there's a lot of really competitive drivers coming to Xfinity, though. I mean, I think Jesse Love's going to be really good. I'm really excited for Josh Williams getting the opportunity at Colleague. That's going to be a really fun one to follow. He's also getting to run some cup races. And then it's Chandler Smith in the 81 car. He's going to be really fast. I know a lot of people, he rubs people the wrong way. Shane Van Gisbergen, we talked about him a little bit, and I just want to note, because I've got the 22 car here, that Jeb Burton, for the first time in his career since he was driving the trucks with the 4 truck in like 2010, is going to come back to the same team with the same crew chief, with the same spotter, first time in his freaking career. And Jeb won a race last year. He won a race when he was with Junior. They're going to be the plate tracks. He'll be up front at the plate tracks. I think Jeb is at least going to contend and show some signs of improvement for that group. I really like that Jeb and Parker Retzlaff are going to get to stay in the same group there and grow a little bit. Also want to shout out Parker Klagerman in that 48 team. They were really fast last year too. And if they made the Final Four, I would not be surprised.
Well, just to be a contrarian here and kind of change it up, my Final Four here, I am going to throw some stuff on the wall and see if it sticks. But I am going to say SVG surprises a bunch of people and he makes it into the Final Four. I think, yes, he doesn't have a ton of oval, experience. I think, he's got some stuff on dirt, which is not going to really translate. And then 200 laps at IRP in a truck. But I think he's going to surprise a bunch of people. I think after the finish to last year, I think Riley Herbst has taken the next step, and I'm throwing him in my Final Four, and he's going to win at least 3 races this year. I can't say which 3, but he'll have 3 wins come the end of the year. I think Justin Allgaier, this isn't really a surprise, but I think he continues to lead the way for Junior Motorsports and does not have to wait until, teammates wreck their own shit in the final 2 turns at Martinsville to sneak it in there. Personally. And then I think Chandler Smith will end up being the other one there, because I think he's taken over the 20 car, and that seems to, I know it's renumbered, but I think that seems to be, that's the top car at Gibbs. And I think Allgaier gets it.
I was going to say, I didn't say who I picked to win it. I have Allgaier winning the championship this year.
I think out of everybody that's in the Xfinity series this year, Allgaier is probably the best at Phoenix, and I feel pretty comfortable saying if he makes it to Phoenix, he will be the champ.
Sounds good.
And then I'll lead it off here with trucks because I just, I spent 10 minutes looking earlier at who's going to be in trucks. I got Corey Heim. I think he has no problems coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we're going to have, Phoenix 2023 happen next year, but you never know in the truck series. Things could be crazy there. I'm going to say Ty Majeski also gets through there. I think another year at Thor Sports going to do him real well. I'm taking Nick Sanchez as well. He was, I think, lost it on like 2 points or on a tiebreaker or something with Ben Rhodes. He showed a lot of speed last year, and with a couple of them moving up, I think a handful of wins are coming his way. And I'm not too sure about Spire and Cup. We'll see, but I think the fact that they're taking the bones of KBM and investing a lot of money there, I think they will be the top organization in the truck series. And I think I'm going to throw another crazy one out here, but I'm going to put Rajah Caruth in the Final Four in the trucks. He showed speed at times, made quite a bit of mistakes, had some engine issues and other mechanical failures, but I think they'll have a great, fantastic year there. And it seems at this point he's in that Hendrick pipeline now.
Yep.
There's, I think Rajah is going to need some more seasoning, but I think having a full-time truck ride with Spire, it's going to help him a lot. And if he can finish some races, I don't think that's too egregious, but you need to see him, make a few less of those mistakes, self-inflicted mistakes. And I think he'll be there. Mine, you took a few of mine, but I'm starting with Lane Riggs, taking over the 38 truck, right? The Zane Smith truck. That one truck's won a lot of races and won a championship. I'm going to take Lane Riggs. I think he's got some speed. I think he can figure it out. I'm going to take Christian Eckes, 19 truck. It's fast. They won a lot of races down the stretch. They faltered at the end. I think he rebounds, and Eckes is going to try to keep, shedding that, Kyle Busch. I wasn't running good when I was in a Kyle Busch truck reputation off of him. And then I am going to take Nick Sanchez. And then I got to take a veteran, so I'm going to bring Ben Rhodes to the Final Four, and then I'm going to say Nick Sanchez wins the championship this year. And stuffs it in the face of Matt Crafton.
Real quick, I will say, and I thought about it, but I also, even though he's going over to CR7 Motorsports, I would also not be surprised to see Enfinger back in the Final Four.
It was between Enfinger and who did I say is the veteran? Ben Rhodes. It was between those two for me. Enfinger was so close, man. I wanted him. I wanted it bad for him last year.
All right. Well, David, you took 3 of mine. My Final Four, obviously, Nick Sanchez, ton of speed, like you said. Mm-hmm. Over at Rev Racing, they have something going there. Mm-hmm. I did pick Ben Rhodes to get back in the Final Four here. Do not.
All right, give me Enfinger. Give me Enfinger.
I also picked front row Lane Riggs as a rookie.
Yeah.
I think that truck is bad fast, and the kid can drive. Yeah. He's gone and won everything that he's run up to this point. And I also have Tricon with Corey Heim back in the Final Four, because I really think he probably should have won that championship last year before getting Hocevar.
Yeah.
And then losing his mind. I think another year now, he's probably going to mature a little bit. Mm-hmm. The speed's there at Tricon. I have Corey Heim winning my championship with Tony Hirschman up on the roof again.
It's your boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't say for me, but I'm going to take Nick Sanchez on that one too.
Yeah, I think the trucks are also really interesting. Man, I hope Enfinger's team finds some speed. That's the one that I'm like, oh, I hope they can get just that 9 truck wasn't all that fast the last couple of years, but Enfinger's such a good driver he's always been underrated too. It's really frustrating that the Enfinger doesn't end up in a more like he finally got that GMS ride. He won some races last year. It's like, of course, they shut down, and now he has to go find another ride and start from the bottom again because nobody wants to sponsor the old guy. But Enfinger's fast. He's been fast for years. So,
and I mean, he was in that 9 truck part time, a couple of years ago, and was dragging that truck to top 10, top 5 finishes, and I believe, not, McAnally and I think them are taking the remnants of GMS. So there's some good equipment there. So I mean, maybe they upgraded, but we'll see come next week. Really, I mean,
Yep.
although it's its own animal and it's not most of the season, but it'll be interesting to see how some of these teams are.
All right, how many good finishes, good runs does Marco Andretti pull off running the trucks for the first time this year?
I think he'll sneak some top 10s, but I really think he'll just be in that 10 to 20 range. I mean,
it's worth noting he's running the 04 truck that Corey Roper ran. That's the truck he's running.
Yeah.
It's not a very fast truck, except for at Daytona.
He might be able to back into some top 10s at Daytona or so, but I don't see that truck going anywhere to the front, especially with him running it.
I mean, if you know what, if Angela Rutsch and Natalie Decker backed into top 5, top 10 at Daytona, there shouldn't be any issue there.
Man, I wanted Corey Roper to win that one Daytona race he ran, that he almost won. Gosh, that would have been fun.
It would have been great to have Jordan Anderson the year before win that, and then Roper. I mean, even Anderson.
And Ben Rhodes win both of those, or maybe Enfinger won one of them.
And Thor Sport won both of them, but it was Enfinger over Anderson. Well, and then Rhodes over Anderson and the other one too.
I'm real interested also while we're on trucks before we close out. I'm interested to see if Dean Thompson since he didn't have Haley Deegan wrecking him anymore. Can Dean Thompson come back and show a little bit of improvement for Tricon? And then my other guy was Jake Garcia is going to Thor Sport. That's pretty interesting. Jake Garcia was real fast in a not very fast truck last year.
Also though, he may have lost Haley Deegan wrecking him. But then he's going to have to deal with Sean Higueroni sometimes wrecking his ass too. So.
Oh no, that's the dude from ARCA, isn't it?
Yeah. The whole thing that happened at Mid Ohio. Yeah, so he loses one, but then he gains another one. And
maybe that guy won't pick on. Maybe that guy won't pick on poor Dean Thompson. We didn't talk about Haley Deegan is running Xfinity this season. Short expectations, I guess. What do you guys think?
It's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be a learning curve for her. Do I think she can drive sometimes? Yeah. But we don't really know what that team's capable of or what her capability is going forward. So do I think she could run the top 15? Most likely. But we'll see.
I mean, she ran top 15 in a shit, a SSL green light shit box, a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I'm not super high on her, and I'm not saying she's going to be, competing for top 10s here, but, as long as she keeps it clean, she'll continue to move up. I think she'll do better in an Xfinity car than she would in a truck. But again, I'm not saying she's going to blow it out of the water, and who knows, honestly. I mean, is Ford even given, AM Racing any support really? I mean, who knows?
Works for me. We hit all the interesting points I wanted to hit tonight.
Yep.
So
yeah. So, but I'm real excited. I mean, even on Cup, I'm real excited to see how this goes this year. I mean, you've got 2 years of fine tuning, the next gen car. Well, Gen 7 car now. So I think, they continue to make changes, but we'll see. So I appreciate you guys jumping on. Again, I'm real excited here for February 22nd, see how you guys do. And We appreciate everybody joining in live with us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
for having
everybody.
us.